The Breeders' Cup action is fast and furious this weekend at Santa Anita, and you, to simplify things, want to play through NYRA bets. A $200 or up to $200 match bonus, as well as a $25 risk-free bet in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile or the Breeders' Cup Classic using promo code BC19. Many good things happening at NYRAbets.com. The action continues on Saturday with the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. I think this Dirt Mile is a very, very interesting race, and I'm not going to argue against the morning line favorite, who is my second choice, but clearly the horse to beat, and that is Omaha Beach, who there's an argument is as good, if not better, than any three-year-old we have seen run this year. Omaha Beach did something really incredible when you think about it. He came back off a near 6-month layoff, cut back to 6 furlongs, a distance he has never run on any surface, and he ran down the mighty Chancelot, who has a chance to win the Breeders' Cup Sprint, one of the best Breeders' Cup sprints we've ever seen. Came through on the inside, great ride by Mike Smith. This is a good runner, and he can only benefit by stretching out in distance. The questions are whether or not he's going to come back a few weeks later and run as well, actually almost a month later, 4 weeks later. Whether or not he's still good enough to beat some other runners in here, he'll show that needed improvement to do it, and whether or not you want to take one of the shortest prices on Breeders' Cup weekend to find out. I think he's vulnerable. I have great respect for Omaha Beach. How can you not? But I think he's a horse you might want to try to take a little bit of a chance against. I'm not going to try to beat him, though, with Giant Expectations. But Giant Expectations is a horse that I have a lot of respect for, and let's be honest. It's a New York bred. Come on. A little bit of rooting for the home team. Yeah, he's California-based, but we've seen plenty of them in the East Coast. And this was a very, very good effort by this horse out in California last time out behind the talented Catalina Cruiser. The problem with Giant Expectations, he did what he does too often. He gets to the front and he hangs. And this was a one-turn race, and he prefers his one-turn races, but he's hanging the Catalina Cruiser. And he's a big price in this race. So if he can find a way to break cleanly, because he is a horse who's had many gait issues, and they've cost him victories in the past, I don't think he's impossible, but I do think he's better around one turn. What about the 3-year-old Improbable? And there are a number of 3-year-olds in this race. Let's take a look at the start for the number 2 Improbable. And you see him break a length and a half too slow. And in a slow-paced race, that's a disadvantage. And after we talk about the replay, I'm going to discuss his break and why I'm not concerned with it being a problem going forward. I don't like Mr. Money in this race. If Mr. Money couldn't win, given the slow pace he set, I know it's 1 1/8. I don't see how he's beating better horses going a mile. We'll talk a little bit more about Spun to Run, who's a disappointing 5th finisher in this race, but came back with a huge effort we'll talk about in a little while. But I want to talk about Improbable, who's down in the rail. I watched all the races of the dirt races from Parks that day, and I think there's a very strong argument that the rail was not the place to be, particularly in the stretch. And that's going to come up later with another player in this race in Cold Front. And Improbable got left. Improbable was acting up before the start, and he was acting up in the gate, but he had settled down. And it was just bad luck. When they popped the gate, he turned his head right when it popped. I think Bob Baffert's going to have him straight. And Improbable's a very talented runner, and he's particularly good at a mile. And in my opinion, had he not gotten left and not been on a dead rail, he would have won the Pennsylvania Derby quite easily. And I'm not sure he wouldn't be favored in this race along with Omaha Beach. I think he's going to present a little bit of value in here, and I like Improbable's chances. What do you do with Spun to Run? From a buyer speed figure standpoint, and pretty much any speed figures, he could be the horse to beat if he runs back to this race at Parks. Where the heck did it come from? I thought his Pennsylvania Derby was very mediocre. He really had never run particularly fast races before. We've seen some aberrational races at Parks in the past. Juan Carlos Guerreros is going to ship this horse from Parks to California, and if this is indicative of the kind of race he's going to run in the Breeders' Cup, he's going to win. But how can you trust him off this one big number, and the rest of his races don't make him a contender? I'm not using him, but I can understand why people will throw him at a big price. That was a very impressive race. Let's talk Cold Front. And in my opinion, Javier Castellano and Todd Pletcher need to send Cold Front to the lead. He is faster than these horses early and try to bottom the field out. Now, he's in the 2 to 3 path for much of the early running. But I want to tell you something. He gets forced down towards the inside in the stretch by Diamond King. And I know Diamond King didn't run that well in the Bold Ruler, but Diamond King's a very good horse, and I can give him some excuse for the Bold Ruler. But Cold Front was very game and resilient down in the inside, and he does have back races that are fast enough, and he may be the controlling speed. Do I trust him? How can I trust a horse that ran as badly as he did in his prior effort? And he really didn't run well in the Met Mile, tough field or not. He was down in the good rail. But that race last time at Parks was good enough, and as the speed, I want to throw him in. Boy, I think this Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile came up a lot more interesting than I thought it would. I have great respect for Omaha Beach, but I'm going to try to beat him with Improbable. Improbable is my top choice, Omaha Beach second, Cold Front the Speed third, and how could I not throw the New York bred Giant Expectations, one of my favorites, in here for fourth? A fun Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile that you, me, and everyone should be playing at NYRA Bets. Head on over to NYRABets.com. Use the promo code BC19. We will match up to $200 your deposit, but also a $25 risk-free bet on either the Breeders' Cup Juvenile or the Breeders' Cup Classic as the action continues on a fast and furious Breeders' Cup weekend.